hair dye is actually doing to your hair. A dermatologist's honest breakdown. A few weeks ago, I came across a video online that I genuinely could not stop thinking about. An influencer colored her hair a different color every single day for 30 days. Pink, blue, purple, green, silver. Internet loved it. Everybody in the comments were saying, goals, iconic, so pretty. And while I was watching it, all I could think was, somebody needs to explain what is actually happening to that hair shaft at a molecular level. Because what looks so creative, dramatic, and harmless on camera is creating very real, cumulative damage underneath. And the most important thing most people don't realize, hair damage does not heal itself. Once that section of hair is damaged, it stays damaged until you cut it off. So today, I want to break down what hair dye is actually doing to your hair and the difference between temporary, semi-permanent, permanent dye, henna, and why bleaching hair damages hair so aggressively, and how to color your hair in the smartest, least damaging way. Because honestly, I don't think enough women really understand why they agree every time to sit in that salon chair. Before we talk about color, you need to understand the structure of your hair. Because once you understand the anatomy, the hair dye suddenly makes so much more sense to you. Your hair shaft has 3 layers. The first layer is the cuticle. Think of it like the roof tiles. They're overlapping layers sitting flat along the surface of the hair. And when the cuticle is healthy and smooth, hair looks shiny, soft, reflective, and less tangled. But when the cuticles become lifted or damaged, the hair looks like dull, rough, frizzy, and it breaks more easily. Now, underneath this cuticle is the cortex, which is the important layer when we talk about coloring. And the cortex contains keratin, that's the protein, then the natural pigment melanin, and those keratin proteins are held together by disulfide bonds, and these bonds are what give the hair strength, elasticity, structure. And when these bonds break, the hairs weaken. Unfortunately, permanent hair dye breaks those bonds. Then there's the medulla in the center, the third layer, and that's not important for today's discussion. The real story happens in the cuticle and the cortex. Temporary versus semi-permanent versus permanent dye. Let's simplify the types of color, because not all hair dye damages hair equally. Temporary color is the gentlest option. The color molecules are large, so they sit on the surface of the hair and they don't enter deeply into the shaft, which means very little structural damage, and the color washes out quickly, usually within 1 or 2 shampoos. It's great for, these experiments, events, short-term color changes. Semi-permanent color goes slightly deeper. The molecules penetrate a little bit more into the cuticle, but they don't disturb the cortex. So little or no ammonia, very low peroxide, and less damage. Semi-permanent color enhances or deepens the color, but it can't significantly lighten dark hair. This is important because the moment you try to lighten hair dramatically, damage increases. Permanent color is where the real chemistry begins. Permanent dye works in 3 aggressive steps, and each step stresses the hair. What does permanent hair dye actually do? The cuticle is actually forced to open, and most permanent dyes use ammonia, and ammonia is alkaline. Healthy air needs to be more acidic. So ammonia dramatically raises the pH and forces the cuticle scales to open. And imagine it's like trying to pry open protective doors in the hair shaft. And that's exactly what's happening. And every time this happens repeatedly over years, the cuticle never lies flat again. That's why overcolored hair feels rough, frizzy, dry, tangled, and porous. Step 2, hydrogen peroxide enters into the cortex. And once this is open, the hydrogen peroxide penetrates deeper inside and the bleaching step happens. This is the bleaching step. Hydrogen peroxide destroys your natural melanin. That's how dark hair becomes lighter. And here's the important part most people don't know. Hydrogen peroxide also creates free radical damage, and that's inside the hair shaft. And these free radicals attack the disulfide bonds which are holding the hair structure together. And these bonds are critical for strength. And when enough of these bonds break, the hair loses its elasticity, strength, resilience, and moisture retention. That's why bleached hair becomes fragile. Step 3, new color molecules get trapped inside. And now the artificial dye molecules enter the cortex and they expand the shaft. And this creates long-lasting color. But at this stage, the structure of hair is already changed. While some bonds try to reform, they never reform perfectly, meaning that the hair is permanently altered. This section of hair is now going to be weaker than before, and the damage accumulates over time. One of the biggest misconceptions in beauty is this idea that damaged hair can fully heal. It can't. Hair is not living tissue. It has no active repair system, unlike skin cells, which actively repair from within. So when brands say repair damaged hair, they just mean that you're temporarily improving the feel and the appearance. Conditioners can smooth the cuticle. Bond builders can reduce the further breakage. Masks can improve softness, but severely damaged hair does not regenerate. Only true repair is for new hair growth from the scalp. That means eventually cutting off all the damaged ends. Now, let's talk about henna. This is one of the most common questions I get from Indian patients. Pure natural henna works very differently from chemical dye. Henna coats the hair using a pigment molecule called lawson. And this has no ammonia, no peroxide, and no aggressive bleaching. So overall, henna is genuinely less damaging than permanent chemical dye. But there are many caveats to this. Henna gives a reddish copper, warm brown tone. It's can't dramatically lighten the hair. And over years, heavy henna use can create buildup and it makes salon coloring difficult. But here's the part that worries me, black henna. And black henna is not true henna. Many black henna products contain PPD, paraphenylalanine. And PPD is one of the most commonest severe allergic reactions that we see. Blistering, swelling, itching, and pigmentation, long-term sensitization. Once someone becomes allergic to PPD, they can react to future hair dyes permanently, which is why patch testing matters every single time, not just the first time. And PPD allergy does cause pigmentation. How to color smarter? I'm not anti-hair color. You can see I have colored hair. Most women are going to color their hair at some point. The goal is not fair with smarter decision and to reduce your damage significantly. Extend the gap between color sessions. Instead of every 4 to 6 weeks, stretch it for 10 to 12 weeks. Ideally, touch up only the roots. The ends don't need repeated processing every time. Use lower peroxide volumes. Higher developer volumes means more damage. Most gray coverage do not need aggressive peroxide strength. Ask your hair colorist what they're using. Use bond building treatments like Olaplex, which have become famous for a reason. These treatments help reconnect some of the damaged disulfide bonds. It's not a perfect repair, but definitely helps. And reduce heat styling. Chemically treated hair is much more vulnerable to heat, like air drying and also, curling, straightening, etc. Use heat protectants. Deep conditioning on a weekly basis, especially if your hair feels rough, porous, or dry. Protein-rich masks can temporarily improve the texture and reduce damage. Hair oiling also helps. Warning signs that your hair is damaged. Here are 4 signs your hair needs a break. Stretchy or gummy hair when it's wet, very bad sign. Mid-shaft breakage, hair snapping in the middle instead of falling from the root. It's extreme tangling, usually means cuticle damage. Hair that sinks instantly in water is very porous and hair absorbs water rapidly. If your hair feels stretchy, mushy, fragile, or snapping, pause the chemical processing and focus on recovery. It can take between 3 to 6 months. And here's the truth that nobody tells you about hair color. Permanent chemical dye causes real measurable damage every single time you use it. That doesn't mean you should panic. It doesn't definitely mean you should stop coloring your hair forever. But I do think you deserve to understand what's actually happening every time your hair is processed. Because once you understand the biology and the chemistry behind it, you make smarter decisions. Ammonia lifts and disrupts the cuticle. Hydrogen peroxide destroys natural melanin inside the cortex, but it also creates oxidative stress that weakens the structural bonds holding your hair together, and that damage is cumulative. Your hair remembers every bleach session, every aggressive color correction, and every repeated overlap on the lengths of the hair. Unlike skin, hair does not heal itself. Once that section of hair is damaged, that shaft stays damaged and eventually gets cut off. Here's the important part. You do not need to stop coloring your hair. You just need to color smarter. That's the difference. Stretch out your hair appointments if you can. Color every 8 to 10 weeks, even 12 weeks if you can. Ask your colorist for root touch-ups instead of repeatedly pulling hair color through your process lens. Use the lowest peroxide volume that actually gets the job done. Higher developer strength is not automatically better, just faster, and it's damaging. Use bond building treatments after coloring like Olaplex. It doesn't magically restore your virgin hair, but it absolutely helps reduce ongoing structural damage and condition your hair on a weekly basis. If your hair is chemically treated, be careful with heat because color hair becomes much more vulnerable to straighteners, to curling irons, high heat blowing. Air dry when possible, and heat protectant serum always. And patch test every time if you have allergies. And if you have severe allergies, then ensure that you don't use the hair dye and go for allergy-free or PPD-free hair dyes. And PPD hair dyes and black hennas are known for causing hair dye allergies. If I had to rank hair coloring options from least damaging to the most damaging, it would probably look like this. Pure henna if you're comfortable with warmer reddish tones. Then semi or demi-permanent hair color for maintenance and tone adjustments. Permanent color when truly necessary, especially when you're covering grays or you're doing a significant color change. And finally, heavy bleaching and repeated color transformations are by far the most aggressive on your hair shaft. 30 colors in 30 days might make incredible social media content, but hair underneath by the end of it tells a very different story. So color your hair if you love to, express yourself, have fun with it, but understand the trade-off because healthy looking hair is not just about color, it's about the condition of the fiber underneath the color. Color smarter now and your hair will genuinely thank you for years to come. I'd love to know how long you've been coloring your hair. Have you noticed damage over time? Have you found a routine that helps keep your hair healthy despite coloring? Drop your experience in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want a deeper video on gray hair, keratin treatments, Olaplex, hair Botox, hair loss after coloring, or how to repair damaged hair, let me know and I'll do that video for you. This is Dr. Chatra, your Indian beauty doc, signing off till next week.